Welcome to Survive in Advance on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. Survive in Advance is brought to you by Replenishing Care, the future of sports medicine. To find out more about Replenishing Care technologies, go to the Grueling Truth page at thegruelingtruth.net. Click on the banner at the top of the page. I am your co-host for Survive in Advance, Mike Goodpaster, and right now I want to welcome in my co-host, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Hey, doing good today. A little tired from the staying up to watch the game last night. Of course, it did end at about 8:30 out here. So
shit, what are you talking about? I mean, come on. Golly. Yeah, you're tired from staying up watching a game that ended at 8:30 your time, Steve. Come on. How old are you?
Oh, no, we had to watch Dancing with the Stars afterwards, so it kept us up.
So. All right. As always, the question is parity or mediocrity. No matter what it is, the NFL every week has a couple games that just make you wonder what the hell's going on. So what the hell's going on, Steve? I mean, when we look at this, anybody can beat anybody on any given week, basically.
Yeah, that's definitely it. I mean, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing for the NFL. It's kind of a bad thing if you're rooting for your own team because you're just pulling your hair out, wondering why nobody can get any consistency at all. Teams you think are starting to move, all of a sudden slow down. Teams that you think are playing their way right out of a chance of the playoffs are playing themselves right back into it real quick. But I think the NFC, I think, is pretty well belonging to the Rams. I think they're pretty well set themselves ahead of everybody. Minnesota's kind of a little bit. They're not quite as strong as people maybe thought they were. Green Bay shows a flash of brilliance last night, but let's face it, they're beating a 1-5 team. And they've got to pull it out of their butts at the last play pretty much to do that. And they have to have Aaron Rodgers finally have an Aaron Rodgers MVP game to do it. So, the NFC is pretty well blown down to. It's the Rams to lose, I think. What do you?
Well, I still think you have to keep it on the Eagles. They're the defending world champions. That's the game we'll talk about first. The Eagles last Thursday night beat the New York Giants 34-13, and it looks like the Giants are dead. People will say they should have drafted a quarterback, but when you watch Saquon Barkley average 10 yards a carry, it's hard to think that they made a mistake by taking him. The Eagles, when you look at it, Carson Wentz has played well all the games he's in, but this last one, 26 for 38, 278 yards, 3 touchdowns.
3 TDs, yeah.
My only question with the Eagles is where are they going to get the running game from? Because you had Wendell Smallwood, 18 carries for 51 yards. Corey Clement, 11 for 43. I don't see how at this point they could give the Rams a serious challenge without being able to run the ball. But I think the Eagles, when you watch that game against the Giants, still have to be a threat.
Well, I think the Eagles are a team. They're getting better every game. Maybe they're getting Carson back into their offensive fold more. Their players get more comfortable. They spent a whole year without him. And as good as Carson is, Foles is a different kind of quarterback. There seems to be more continuity in their offense right now. Defensively, they're still strong. And I think this is just one of those blue-collar teams like they did last year. They're just going to grind it out, and they're going to grind you into the ground every game and make you earn everything. And, we really haven't seen the Rams tested to any great extent, although, they only beat Denver by 3, but I don't think they really were ever really in any jeopardy of losing that football game. I like the Eagles now more and more, and there's something to be said for the confidence of having that trophy sitting in your lobby of your home offices that gives you a lot of confidence. And I think that they're going to challenge. I think that in a matchup right now, it'd be a really good game to watch right now between the Eagles and the Rams to see which of the two teams would come out. I think the Rams still have too much firepower, but I like the way the Eagles are playing football right now. They're scoring it and coming at you from every different direction.
Yeah, and you brought up the Rams, who beat the Broncos 23-20. But the thing that sticks out for me here is Jared Goff didn't have a normal Jared Goff game. He was 14 for 28, 201 yards and an interception. But they won the game because what Philadelphia misses, the Rams definitely don't. and that's a running game. Todd Gurley, 28 carries, 280
200,
yards, 7.5
Yeah.
yards per carry. And this is what makes this team so good because they're diversified, they're multidimensional on offense, where right now the Eagles aren't.
Yeah, they've got too many weapons. The only team that's going to beat the Rams this year, the Rams are going to beat themselves. And that'll happen with Goff having a bad game or Gurley and Goff having a bad game on the same weekend. It can happen. It happens. And very few people can go 16 NFL games playing flawlessly as this team has so far this year. So I don't see a team out there that when the Rams are playing like they're playing right now, when you got somebody like a Gurley who can pick up the slack when Goff has an off game, that gives you the luxury of allowing your quarterback to have an off game. And like I said, I don't see a team. I think the Eagles would give them a good run, but at this point, I think only the Rams can beat themselves. Defensively, they're as solid as can be. A lot of sacks, a lot of good plays, just all around good play all across the board for the Rams.
All right, then we go to the Jaguars and the Cowboys, and I think the Jaguars are a team that is the epitome of the NFL parity, where a month ago they're beating the crap out of New England Patriots and everybody says this is the team to beat, and now they're losing 40-7 to the Dallas Cowboys, and it's not like people think the Cowboys are a great team. Dak Prescott, 2 touchdowns. Ezekiel Elliott ran for 106 yards. But I think in the end, this Jaguars team's as good as any team, but they have one glaring problem. And really two glaring problems. Number one, they have Blake Bortles. And number two, more often than not, they don't have Leonard Fournette.
Yeah. Bortles just continues to be the Achilles heel of the football team. They seem to be built in 21 of the 22 positions solidly. But Bortles, he's kind of living proof of how important a good quarterback is to your organization, because that's going to be the downfall of this team. And this is a team that's in decline, whereas you're seeing the Eagles step up to the plate and improve their game week by week. You're watching Jacksonville actually tank. And I'll tell you right now, Houston, I don't want to get ahead, but Houston looked not bad last week. And Jacksonville looked not good. Jacksonville may not be the odds-on favorite to win the conference or the division right now. If they keep playing the way they're doing, because the Cowboys are not a good football team. And the Cowboys threw up 40 points on them. So their defense wasn't even there. You can't blame it all on Bortles. Well, Bortles goes 15 of 26 for 149 yards. That's just not acceptable for a team that thinks it's going to make itself into the Super Bowl. And it's back-to-back performances for him now. So. And they dropped to 3-3. It's 500 on the season.
The one thing a bad offense does is it makes a defense that, no matter how good it is, feel a lot more pressure because you feel like you got to stop them on your own all the time. And I think that leads to the defense being not as good. And when you look at the other side of this, we talked about the Jaguars. They blow out the Patriots. The Patriots are dead. The Patriots are 1-2, 2 games out of first. Now the Patriots are 4-2. They beat the red-hot Kansas City Chiefs 43-40. And the difference in this game is the difference between Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. And Mahomes played well, 354 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. But on the other side, when you look at Tom Brady, you're looking at 24 for 35, 340 yards, only 1 touchdown. But I think the biggest difference in this game is he didn't make a mistake. 0 interceptions. And when you look at this guy, he looks the same as he did 10 years ago, Steve.
Yeah, no, they're playing themselves right back into by far the best team in the AFC. I think it's, again, like the Rams. I think this is the Patriots to lose now. I don't think there's anybody at this point. Now that could change because I broke it down in the AFC. I kind of paid a little bit more attention to. I broke it down to where I really think the Chiefs and Steelers are kind of setting themselves apart, and I think that was determined Sunday who's the better of those two teams. But then you've got this core group of teams like the Ravens, the Steelers, the Chargers, the Bengals, and somebody keep the Jags in there for this week that are just a notch below them. But clearly, you look at the way he's distributing passes. I mean, Gronkowski 3 catches, Hogan 4 catches, Edelman 4 catches. He's throwing to everybody.
All right,
real quick, Steve. He's got 5 guys on here.
Steve, we have a special guest on the air.
Yeah.
So, Anthony,
who do we have?
Yes, I'm here. The FF Face-Off ran a few minutes late this morning.
Anthony, sorry, we just finished beating up on the Cowboys. So
actually, we didn't beat up on the Cowboys. We beat up on the Jaguars.
Oh.
Just like the Cowboys
we actually
did.
beat up on the Jaguars.
I was shocked with that game. And I'm a Cowboys fan, and I think highly of the Jaguars, but the Cowboys steamrolled them, and I think that the Jaguars, if they don't get Leonard Fournette back right away, they're going to be in trouble down the stretch.
Yeah, and when you look at it,
we said that.
I think the Jaguars are an 8-8 team with Blake Bortles playing quarterback because he's so hot and cold. What was your take on the Chiefs-Patriots last night? Or two nights ago?
I think it was classic Andy Reid and Belichick and Pat Mahomes and Brady. I just think the Patriots, they're doing what we've seen them do in the past. They are getting hot. They're getting players healthy. They're figuring out their identity. And I think the biggest takeaway is the fact that Pat Mahomes, for the second week in a row, he faced adversity. Even though they didn't win, he stayed poised and kept the Chiefs in it. And the ultimate sign of respect was Brady going over to Mahomes after the game. I think the Chiefs are very much for real. I think the Patriots and the Chiefs are in a collision course for the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, but I think this, Anthony. I would favor the Patriots there just because even though the Chiefs have a young quarterback, the Patriots are going to continue to get better because of Bill Belichick. And what we've seen in the past with Andy Reid is how many times have we seen Andy Reid start off 5-0 and then get nowhere near a championship game even?
Absolutely.
And
we're not even –
go ahead.
Well, we haven't even seen the best of Josh Gordon yet.
Yeah. And
he got 9 targets. He almost caught one in the end zone. He ran, I think, double the amount of routes that he's running in the past 2 or 3 games with the Patriots, and I think it's going to be special. And Gronk hasn't got going.
Yeah, because you look at it, you got Gronk, Hogan, Edelman, White, Gordon. They got weapons all over, but the thing I think that really sets this team apart from the past few years is Sonny Michel.
Oh, he's a legit running back. What he does, what James White doesn't. Well, James White is a pass-catching back. He's their modern-day Kevin Falk. Sonny Michel, he's a grinder between the tackles. He can do it all, and we've seen that. He steamrolled the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I think he has over 300 yards rushing and 3 or 4 touchdowns in the last 2 games. It's remarkable.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you got and Tom Brady throughout his career has not had big-time running backs normally, except for the time he had Corey Dillon. That was about it. So I think this team is very dangerous. Now, we'll go to last night, Steve. The San Francisco 49ers entered Lambeau Field with a 1-4 record. The Packers, of course, were 2-1. The Niners really handed it to the Packers for most of the game, and then at the end of the game, they came up short. What was your take on this one, Steve?
I think this was nothing more really than a fun game to watch. I don't think either one of these teams, well, obviously the 49ers are battling the Colts for draft pick position right now, the best they can do. Although I thought their quarterback was a Beathard, C.J. Beathard.
Yeah.
Did a stellar job coming in there and playing in that situation, going to Lambeau Field and playing. He was fun to watch. It was a very fun football game to watch. We got to see the old-style Aaron Rodgers, the gunslinger Aaron Rodgers. But let's face it, this is a team that scraped and clawed the Packers, to scrape and claw to beat a 1-5 team.
At home on a Monday night.
An entertaining game for Monday Night Football. At home on a Monday night. And if you're doing that, you are not going to be a playoff contender across the board. We got the best thing about last night was we got to watch Aaron Rodgers be like Aaron Rodgers again. That's my take on the game. I don't think the Packers are relevant. I certainly San Francisco is not relevant, again, just for draft pick and fighting with my Colts to try and get the number 1 pick. But it was a very fun game to watch. I enjoyed the game. Good ending.
Well, the thing I took away from it, Anthony, was the 49ers had a chance to win that game with 8 minutes left. They had the ball 2 or 3 times. And I think Kyle Shanahan played not to lose the game.
Yeah, I agree there. He was aggressive, so aggressive in the first half where C.J. Beathard looked like a Pro Bowl quarterback. And in the second half, he kind of pumped the brakes and tried to manage the game. I think C.J. Beathard is at his best when he's throwing the ball downfield. And the last time he threw the ball downfield in the second half, it was intercepted. That was his only mistake of the night. I think the 49ers, they're tough. Matt Breida was supposed to miss a few weeks. He was back playing without practicing, was effective. We saw a little bit of emergence from Raheem Mostert, who is taking Alfred Morris's job as a second running back. They're getting healthier, but I don't think they're going to do anything with Jimmy Garoppolo on the sideline. But for the Packers, we've seen this before, right? We've seen the Packers look absolutely atrocious earlier in the year. Then Aaron Rodgers just goes on one of these runs, and he's doing this with rookie wide receivers and Devontae Adams. Randall Cobb is out. Geronimo Allison is out. Once these players start getting healthy, I do think the Packers could give the NFC North a run.
Okay, I don't. And the reason I don't is this. The last few years when he's done that, it's been against predominantly teams that are bad. And if you look at their schedule coming up, they've got to go to the Rams. The Rams are going to put 40 on them, maybe 50. They go to the Patriots. So right there, you're 3-4-1. Then you host the Dolphins, who are not terrible. You go to Seattle, who have Russell Wilson. You go to Minnesota. You do then get the Cardinals. Then you got Matt Ryan coming to Lambeau, and they can score points. Then you go to Chicago. You go to the Jets, who are not terrible, and then you host the Lions. I don't think with their schedule that we're set up for that, because I think the reason it's happened in the past is because they've got to play a lot of really bad teams, Anthony.
Yeah, but do you think after what we saw on Sunday that the Bears are going to stay on top the way they're playing? I mean, they have to play the Patriots too. I don't necessarily trust Kirk Cousins in the big game. I don't really trust the Minnesota Vikings in the big game either. And then you have Detroit. We don't know what the hell we're going to get from them either.
But I think
this division is a little bit more wide open.
The division is just bad. But the Chicago Bears lost a close game to a team that's 4-2. It's not like they were at home struggling with a team that's 1-5 either. So the Bears, I think, are a young team with a young quarterback. They're going to be up and down. I think the Vikings. The thing that gives the Vikings the key over all these is I think Mike Zimmer's just a lot better coach than Mike McCarthy. But when you look at the schedule, I think you're looking at two ass weapons over the next 2 weeks, which drop them to 3-4-1, and they could find themselves 2, even 3 games out of first compared to what everybody else does. And they've got to go to the Vikings still. And either way you cut it, that's a tough game. I mean, they didn't beat them at Lambeau. They had a tie. But, Steve?
Yeah?
I thought you were trying to say something before.
Oh, no. You said it. Yeah, I was going to just reiterate what you said. So I don't want to step over your eloquence.
The other thing is this, Anthony. They gave up 30 points to C.J. Beathard last night. And if they're giving up 30 points to C.J. Beathard, I just don't think defensively they're good enough. I think that they're like the Seattle Seahawks or the Indianapolis Colts, where their quarterback is so good, there's always a chance they could beat you. But as a team, I just don't think they're very good.
Yeah,
I agree entirely with that statement.
But, I just don't like to discount Aaron Rodgers, especially now that it seems like he's playing with the chip on his shoulder.
Oh, come on, Anthony. We've discounted him for 8 years when he hadn't won anything. I mean, then the thing is, everybody says, it's not his fault. But when he went to Atlanta a couple years ago to play in an NFC Championship game, he threw 3 picks in the first half. I mean, the guy's a heck of a quarterback. But I think to call him anything close to a Tom Brady is absolutely absurd.
Some people are out there comparing him to the Michael Jordan of the NFL without the rings, as far as putting you into a negative situation and then go ahead and win the game. And then that's why it's hard for me to discount the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, but the thing is this. When you constantly put your team in negative positions, eventually you don't pull it out all the time, which is why they haven't been able to win Super Bowls. I mean, that and the fact that Mike McCarthy is a bad football coach. He just is. Their offensive line is decent. They have no running game. They have no defense. So this is basically the Seattle Seahawks. The only difference between the Seahawks and the Packers is the fact that the Seahawks play in a division where they're screwed because the LA Rams are in it. And when you look at it, and I'll make this statement right now, I would take Russell Wilson over Aaron Rodgers any day.
Why?
Because I think he's a better quarterback. I think he's a better leader. Been to twice as many Super Bowls.
Anthony, I'm in your camp on that. I would take Aaron Rodgers over Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
As much as I like Russell Wilson, I would not take Russell Wilson over Aaron Rodgers.
I think Russell Wilson's a better quarterback. and I think it'll bear out over their careers. Aaron Rodgers is Dan Marino, only he won a Super Bowl once. I mean, I don't know what was so. Dan Marino was not a great leader. Aaron Rodgers is not a great leader. If he was, his teams would win. You give me Tom Brady any day. I'll take a 41-year-old Tom Brady over any version of Aaron Rodgers.
Well, and nobody would disagree with you. I mean, Tom Brady, that's like comparing every flag in the world to the
No, it
the
isn't,
Ferrari.
because when you look on the internet, everybody's always saying Aaron Rodgers is better than Tom Brady.
No, I don't. Well, there's a lot of idiots on the internet too.
That said, Tom Brady was a late round draft pick. He didn't look like your prototypical quarterback, buried on a college depth chart. If you took a quarterback of Aaron Rodgers' pedigree and put him with the Patriots, would he win more?
No. Because I could tell you this.
Oh, yes, he would.
No, he wouldn't. And I'll tell you this. The two best quarterbacks I ever saw were Joe Montana and Tom Brady. And you know what? Joe Montana and Tom Brady, as 3rd and 6th round draft picks, had to work harder than Aaron Rodgers did. They had to be smarter. Nothing was given to them. I mean, Brady and Montana had to earn it. I mean, Montana came into a situation in, 79 or 80, where Steve DeBerg was the starting quarterback. They tried 3 different guys before giving Joe Montana a shot. I think Tom Brady is a better leader. I think he's a smarter quarterback. Is he a smarter quarterback because he's got a better coach? Maybe, but I challenge you to go back and watch the 2000 Orange Bowl against Alabama, where Tom Brady played one of the greatest college football games I've ever seen a quarterback play. When I watch that, it just makes me think that the guys that didn't think he could play were just idiots. And that's the reason he was picked so low. It wasn't because he didn't show NFL potential, because if you watch the last half of his senior season at Michigan and you watch that Orange Bowl, he looked like a first-round quarterback. He didn't look like a 6th-round quarterback. This is NFL guys that looked at him and said, oh, he runs a 5.1 40 and he doesn't have any muscle tone, so he can't play quarterback. So I wouldn't read too much into a bunch of people. NFL scouts, majority, are a bunch of, fat, overweight guys that never played football, that have family, friends connected with the organization.
I mean, to your point, Tony Romo wasn't drafted and doesn't look like a quarterback. He looks like a golfer.
But see, Tony Romo, if you watched him at Eastern Illinois, he looked like a quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo, when you watched him at Eastern Illinois, because I watched him 3 or 4 times his senior year, he looked like a quarterback. The problem is this. We've got guys looking at these guys that have no idea what they're looking at when it comes to quarterbacks. I mean, we're in a league where James Urban was the Bengals wide receivers coach for the last 9 years. He got fired, and he gets hired in Baltimore as the quarterbacks coach. The guy's never played quarterback in his life. And if you look at it, out of the 32 teams in the NFL, over half of them, their quarterbacks coaches never played quarterback. So, I mean, to sit there and say, well, he didn't look like it, that's kind of bullshit, because all the time these guys miss. If you look at the first-round quarterbacks taken, most of them do not turn out to be first-round quarterbacks, Anthony.
No, they don't. It's just hard for me to, look at Aaron Rodgers and look what everything he's done, and to think if he was with an equal situation with Tom Brady, it's hard for me to think that he's not winning at least another, championship or 2 more than Brady. I mean, what about the games that Brady lost against the Giants?
What about them? Those games that Brady lost against the Giants were on the offensive line against the defensive line in the first one. And the second one, they get outscored.
Aaron Rodgers is a mobile quarterback. He's more of an athletic quarterback. Maybe he could have evaded the Giants' pass rush.
The Giants' pass rush was probably the best pass rush in the history of the NFL. They had a rotation of 6 guys that were on his ass the whole day. The other thing is this. You don't think that Tom Brady elevates guys more than Aaron Rodgers? I mean, Tom Brady, most of the guys that have played with him, like the Wes Welkers, are never as good as what they were with Tom Brady.
I mean, you could say the same thing. Look at Jordy Nelson right now.
Jordy Nelson's in Oakland.
He's in Oakland, but if you look at Jordy Nelson's statistical patterns in the years or the games that Aaron Rodgers was out, and there were a few chunks, his numbers sank. He was irrelevant. And this coming from a fantasy football guy.
Yeah, but that's playing with a backup quarterback. It's playing with a backup quarterback. I mean, everybody's going to sink playing with a backup quarterback. Now, you can say
Adams
his
still
numbers.
Put up his numbers.
Huh?
Devontae Adams still put up his numbers with last year with Hundley.
Yeah, with Hundley, who's a guy that's throwing to one guy all the time. And wasn't Nelson hurt part of the season last year?
No, I think he played at least 14.
Yeah. But I don't know. I just don't get the love for Aaron Rodgers when the man basically chokes in the playoffs, as does his coach. Because let's face it, in the end, if you're the quarterback, you're judged on whether you win a ring or not. If you're a running back, you can't judge a running back on that very much. But if you're the quarterback, you're the leader of the team. And Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs has not been as good as Aaron Rodgers in the regular season. Tom Brady is better in the playoffs than he is in the regular season.
That said, where do you put Peyton Manning in the conversation?
He's number 9 or 10.
He hates Peyton Manning.
Number 9 or 10. I don't hate Peyton
Manning.
Peyton Manning loses.
You hate
He
Peyton
loses.
Manning.
Yeah, because he's a freaking loser. And plus, the sexual assault and everything's not that good for him. But the NFL covered that up. And it was proven because he paid $1 million to the woman when he was at Tennessee. They wouldn't have covered it up if it would have been Russell Wilson or Colin Kaepernick. That's all I'm going to say. Because he was the face of the NFL. Peyton Manning was a man that, Tennessee never won a national championship when he was there. The first year he was gone, T. Martin took him to a national championship. The Indianapolis Colts were consistently a home playoff team that lost in the playoffs. I mean, I don't get the Peyton Manning thing. If you look at the games he won in the Super Bowl, he didn't play well in either one. And the game he lost, he throws a pick six to lose the game when he's driving to win the game. The thing that separates Joe Montana, John Elway, and Tom Brady, who I think are the 3 greatest quarterbacks I've ever saw, is that consistently in the playoffs, they did shit that we remember 20 years later. Aaron Rodgers, I don't remember a whole lot with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's a lot better than Brett Favre. But, I mean, I still think the greatest Packer quarterback of all time is Bart Starr.
I'll say this about Tom Brady, and you have to anoint him as the ultimate quarterback in the NFL. But there's never been a quarterback who his entire career has lived in a better environment than Tom Brady.
Because he made it that way.
He's always played on winning teams.
Because he made it that way.
He didn't do it single-handedly.
Oh, bullshit.
He had a great owner who would open his checkbook up whenever he needed to.
You've got to be kidding me. Hang on. Robert Kraft was considered a great owner.
He's had a great coach the whole time.
Uh-huh.
He's opened his checkbook up. He shut up and kept his money. He wasn't been a Jerry Jones. He hasn't sat there and tried to run the team. He let Belichick run the team. He's got arguably the best NFL coach of all time behind him. His entire career has been in this glass dome environment.
So was Joe Montana.
Where other quarterbacks have had.
So was Aaron Rodgers.
I don't think you just called McCarthy the worst coach in the history of the NFL.
Yeah. And they're in that.
You can't double back on that, bastard. Jesus Christ.
Well, I'm telling you this.
Out of your ass.
Wait a second, because you're full of shit. Because if you look at the New England Patriots,
I'm not.
New England Patriots were a losing franchise until Brady became the quarterback.
Until Belichick and Brady came in.
No, until Brady got there. Belichick was not a winner until he got Brady.
No quarterback in the history of the game has, other than maybe Bart Starr, has lived in as great of environment and played in as great of environment as Tom Brady.
Okay, so that means he had nothing to do with it.
Anthony.
Yeah, he had nothing to do with it.
If you put, I'm not an Aaron Rodgers lover, but if you put Aaron Rodgers with the Patriots, he would blow it out too.
No, he wouldn't. Because I can tell you this.
Different quarterback.
Do you know what? Tom Brady, in his first Super Bowl, which was basically his rookie season because he didn't play the first year, goes to a team that was, I think, won 5 games the year before. Their starting quarterback gets hurt, and all of a sudden they're in the Super Bowl, but he doesn't have anything to do with that, right? In that Super Bowl, they get the ball on like their own 15 with 1:20 seconds left, and John Madden's on there saying, "There's no way you let this quarterback throw the ball. You go to overtime." He completes 4 passes, gets them in field goal range, wins the game.
How many coaches has Brady played for?
What's that guy? 1.
1. Okay.
How many quarterbacks has Belichick had in New England?
Coaches? answer my questions. How many coaches did Manning play for? How many coaches did Rodgers play for?
Yeah, because their coaches get fired because their quarterback's not as good.
Who's living in a system that he controls the system. It's built around him. Everything is done. Players
wait a second. So you don't think that Joe Montana played in a system built around him? You don't think John Elway did? You don't think Peyton Manning did?
No,
you don't think Aaron Rodgers did? They all do. They all do.
Yeah,
Joe
but
Montana
the
is in the same
culture
league
was always
as
status
Tom Brady.
quo in New England.
Joe Montana, to me, is dead even with Tom Brady.
I'm just telling you, I'm not knocking Tom Brady. I'm just telling you, quit putting him on his pedestal like he's a freaking god. He's a lucky club quarterback who's
That's
a damn good quarterback. He's got lucky
ignorant.
Spur club.
Absolutely, that is the most ignorant thing you've ever said, and you've said some stupid things before on this show, Steve.
Yeah,
you just called him an average quarterback. You said he was a club quarterback.
I did not say that. I said he's one of the best quarterbacks who could join the Lucky Sperm Club at birth.
All I know is out of his 5 Super Bowl wins, in 4 of those Super Bowls that he won, he drove his team to win the game at the end. One of them in, 3 or 4 years ago was against what was considered maybe the greatest defense of all time. They're down 24-14. He takes them 80 yards twice to win the game.
Yeah,
he's down 28-3 to Atlanta.
He did it all
Wait a
by
second.
himself, didn't he? He didn't have an offensive line. He didn't have receivers.
No, he
didn't have some of the best tight ends ever play the game.
Hey,
he didn't
you
have
know
the
what?
smartest
All right,
offensive
give me
coordinating
this.
coach there.
Give me this. Give me who were the great offensive players he's played with when he's been there? I mean, who are the Hall of Famers? Who are the Hall of Famers that Tom Brady has played with? Anybody? I mean, he's taken guys that can't start for other teams, and he is making them great receivers. Nobody ever heard of Chris Hogan. What's Chris Hogan doing now?
That's why I live by the theory, Mike. A high-performing team will always beat a team of high performers. And the Patriots, for the years that Brady's have been there, have been a high-performing team.
So the guy who's in charge of that at quarterback,
they've got such a damn good coach. He gets people slotted into the right spot, and that just makes Brady. Brady's great.
Yeah.
I don't think you can make an argument that he's not the best quarterback to ever play the game.
See, I don't think you can make the argument that Aaron Rodgers could even get along with Bill Belichick, because I don't think he would, because I don't think his ego would allow it.
Well, it doesn't sound like Brady's getting along with Belichick too much right now anymore either.
It doesn't?
But they put that aside and they go win.
Exactly. Most people would.
If you take Tom Brady away from the Patriots and put him somewhere else, is he having the same success? If you take Aaron Rodgers out of Green Bay and put him somewhere else, is he having the same success? That answer is yes.
Yes, he
would.
would.
Put it where you put him.
Tom Brady's not.
Okay, Tom Brady's not. That's unquestioned. You're right.
If you brought Brady to the Colts, if you swap Andrew Luck and Tom Brady right now, you would see a total swap of who's on top. Because Brady would just be a mediocre quarterback on a shitty football team.
That is just absolutely asinine. It just is. It is. I mean, I can see it if Tom Brady, Tom Brady has less talent normally than the Green Bay Packers to play with.
Okay.
Well, he doesn't.
Have another game to review.
He doesn't because the Patriots are terrible defensively. Their offensive line's not very good. Until this year, he never had a running game.
No, but he's always had a defense, and all those winning Super Bowls, their defense in the past, their defense, the Willie McGinnis,
when are you talking about?
Defense.
You talking about 2005? Yeah,
that matters.
Dude, their defense.
They won their most back then. That's when they were dominant with the defense.
Their defense won them 3 Super Bowls. Their offense won them the other ones. So they've won both ways.
No, according to you, Brady won. Brady won, not the offense.
Well, even with the defenses, I hate to tell you this, but with the defense, you could have the greatest defense in the world, Steve. Hey, all I know is this. At the end of Super Bowl, 36 and 38? Or 36 and 39? Tom Brady drove his team down to score. And I'm pretty sure in Super Bowl 39, they won the game 39-38. So I don't think that was a defensive struggle. I think Tom Brady put up 39 points. I think Tom Brady went the length of the field against the Rams to set up a field goal in a minute to win the Super Bowl. I'm pretty sure Brady, down 10 points, brought his team back against the Seahawks' best defense of all time to win. Tom Brady, down 28-3, put so much pressure on Kyle Shanahan he couldn't even coach a game. And yes, I think Bill Belichick is the greatest coach of all time. And I can also tell you this. There has never been in the history of the NFL a player or a quarterback and a coach that has dominated for 2 decades. And when you put that together, that makes them the greatest coach of all time and the greatest quarterback of all time, because nobody's ever done that. The worst season they've had since the year after they won their first Super Bowl in the last 16 years was 11-5.
We don't disagree with you.
So you agree?
I'm just telling you, you've got Brady on some anointed pedestal.
Well, your problem is this, Steve. Your problem is this. Your head's stuck so far up Peyton Manning's ass, and since it was beaten repeatedly by, Tom Brady, you just don't like it, and that's all right.
That's wrong. I am more of a Peyton Manning fan than anybody. I mean, I use our quarterback on our team, so I like Peyton Manning, but I don't put him on a pedestal. But you've got Tom Brady on.
You said R.
What about your boy Kenny Anderson? There's the greatest quarterback of all time. Don't you do a radio show with him? Cheer for one of your own quarterbacks.
I never said he was the greatest quarterback of all time, because the greatest quarterback of all time, as we've already discovered, is Tom Brady, Steve.
Okay.
But since we're going to bring up...
There's no disagreement there. I'm just telling you that other quarterbacks would be the greatest quarterback of all time, too, if they spent 20 years in the Patriots system.
You cannot think
that's
that.
What I'm saying.
I hate to tell you this. I hate to tell you this, guys, but every system has to be built for that quarterback. And we do not know if this is the thing. Can Aaron Rodgers play in Tom Brady's system? Tom Brady couldn't play in Aaron Rodgers, and I don't think Aaron Rodgers could play in Tom Brady. They both could have success, but they would not be as good trying to play outside of a system that works to them. And the thing is this, when you look at the greatest quarterbacks of all time, which to me are, the two we talked about, Montana had Bill Walsh. Bart Starr had Vince Lombardi. All these guys had legendary coaches. Terry Bradshaw had Chuck Noll. I mean, Roger Staubach had Tom Landry. I don't think there's not too many greatest quarterbacks of all time that would be in anybody's top 10 list who didn't have a great coach, because it takes a great coach to be able to build the system for the quarterback.
Right. We've kind of been arguing.
So we'll just agree that I'm right, and we'll move on.
We're in agreement there.
Next up. The Pittsburgh Steelers 28 to Cincinnati Bengals 21. Who didn't see that coming, as Marvin Lewis proved that he should not be a head coach in the NFL. What was your take on this game, Anthony?
This was a prime opportunity for the Bengals to show the world that they're a new team. This is a different Andy Dalton and company. And, the Steelers, they're starting to play like the Steelers a little bit again. They seem to have Andy Dalton and the Bengals number, especially in Cincinnati. And I don't know if the Bengals can rebound. They certainly have the firepower to do so. I didn't pick the Steelers to win the North. I think it's the Ravens who will ultimately come up on top. But the Bengals definitely need to bounce back, and it wasn't good on Sunday. It was disappointing. I picked the Bengals to win. I thought this was their time, but...
Well, this has nothing to do with Andy Dalton, who played a great game. He was 26 for 42, 229 yards, 2 touchdowns, no mistakes. The only mistake is Marvin Lewis. I mean, when you've got the ball at the 25-yard line with 2 minutes left, and you are still running a no-huddle offense and trying to score quickly, you are trying to lose the game. Marvin Lewis is an idiot. I mean, when I'm sitting there watching this game with my son, when we scored at 118, we both knew we'd lost because it was just ignorant. When you watch Bill Belichick and Tom Brady against Kansas City, you watch them run the clock down. The Steelers still had 3 timeouts, and the Bengals were in no-huddle mode. The Bengals were going to score on the Steelers, And then Bengal fans will sit there and say there was a pick play that beat us. There was a pick play that beat us. But the thing that beat us the most was a lack of coaching. Number one, on the pick play that beat you, you allowed them to do that because you're playing basically cover zero and you're blitzing everybody. Ben Roethlisberger has been in the NFL for a few years. And if you go cover zero and blitz everybody, he is going to literally, no pun intended, pick you apart. So the Cincinnati Bengals got what they deserved because Marvin Lewis should have been fired in 2012 and Mike Zimmer should have been given a job. So this loss to me falls on Mike Brown. Steve?
I just think that the Steelers are just seeing them start to rise, start to rebuild. The interesting part about the Steelers is going to be right now. I mean, I agree with you on the Bengals. I think they're more talented than three-quarters of the teams in the NFL. I still love Green and Dalton as a great combination.
I don't love Green. I think he's soft. I think he's soft. I always have, and he showed it in this game.
Well, yeah, you watch him more than I do. So
he had 2 passes in his hands in the first quarter that he completely dropped. I mean, Dalton was 26 for 42. There were 7 dropped passes. I mean, Andy Dalton is one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. There is no doubt about that. Anybody that thinks differently doesn't know what they're looking at. The problem is, this team's problem is, they've got an offensive line in front of them that's horrible. They got an owner that's an absolute joke, and a head coach that should be working at Arby's.
Spoken like a true fan.
No, it's not a true fan because I don't think he would be a general manager or a store manager even at Arby's. I just think he'd be one of those guys that takes care of everybody's meat mountain.
A line cook.
Yeah, he's a line cook until he screws it up and they fire him.
Roethlisberger continues to amaze me. I mean, that guy looks like he can hardly even walk, and he big play Ray. He makes the big plays time and time again. Connor's been the gem for them in lieu of Bell being gone. Now, the interesting thing is when Bell comes back, if he does come back, I mean, you're talking week 7, so I think the Steelers are on a bye week now, aren't they?
Well, see, this is the thing, Anthony. I'll bring this up to you. If I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't even want Le'Veon Bell back because this team is starting to play well, and I think the way Le'Veon Bell is as a person, I think could wreck what they've got going right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Anthony,
go ahead.
Let Anthony talk at some point.
Let me ask a question to fit into what he's going to answer him. Okay, Anthony, then I'll shut up. Is it better right now for them to sign Bell and then just frickin' try and trade him for a player in a different position or a draft pick or something to bolster up? So add that all into what you're going to say.
Well, absolutely. That's how I felt this whole time. I don't think that Le'Veon Bell, he's not a team guy. He's a me guy. And the way that the Steelers are playing right now, a lot of people had them buried and dead in the first few weeks, and now they're starting to get in their groove. Connor is starting to play better ever since week 4 when he averaged 2.1 yards per carry. He's gone for 5.2, 5.8 in the past 2 games. He's starting to get a groove. I don't know how you could take him off the field. And all Le'Veon Bell is going to do is create controversy. We don't even know if he's football ready. So you're going to take James Conner, a red-hot James Conner, off the field to give Le'Veon Bell his touches. And then if he doesn't get enough touches, what's going to happen? Is he going to act like Odell Beckham Jr. is right now? Is he going to disrupt an already erratic locker room? I just think that he's played his last down in the Steelers. And if he hasn't, he should be. Yeah. The Steelers need a defensive piece. Go trade Le'Veon Bell for a defensive piece.
Well, I think this. I think the Bengals and the Steelers both should be knocking down the Cardinals' door trying to trade for Patrick Peterson right now. Because if either team was to get Patrick Peterson, I think they then could challenge anybody in the AFC. But neither one of those teams will do it because there's no history that either one of those teams will do it. I mean, if you've got the Bengals and you get Patrick Peterson and you got William Jackson on the other side, you've got the best pair of cornerbacks in the NFL.
Do you have any faith in Vontaze Burfict, the fact that he was out with the suspension? This was only his second game back. They say that it usually takes 4 games when a player misses game.
Vontaze Burfict played a bad first half, actually took himself out of the game when he missed a tackle, but in the second half, he was a dominant force. And if you look at this game, the Bengals' defense is not what lost them the game. I mean, they gave up 21 points in 59 minutes. Against the Pittsburgh Steelers, that's a pretty good effort. Vontaze Burfict, I think, is one of the best linebackers in football.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying.
I also think Vontaze Burfict is probably going to be suspended for some bullshit reason. I watched the game. There's nothing he did that should be a suspendable offense. I mean, hell, they've already taken – I think Vontaze Burfict's one of the few guys that's played 7 years in the NFL and has probably paid back more to the NFL than he made.
No, the Bengals, I think they can go 7-3 realistically down the stretch.
Well, I think this. I think the
schedule,
Ravens,
they have the schedule in their favor.
I think when you look at it, I think the Bengals or the Ravens will win this division, and I don't think the Steelers have fixed anything. I just think they're so in the Bengals' heads, and I think the Falcons, after the 2 home losses, kind of laid down. So I don't buy that Pittsburgh's back yet, but when we look at the AFC North, and I've been saying this all year, I don't see a change in the Cleveland Browns, and I don't think we will until they change the head coach. Baker Mayfield, 22 for 46, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. The run game was shut down, and I think the biggest dark horse in the AFC is still the LA Chargers because defensively I think they're really good. They've got a big-time quarterback. They got a big-time running back in Melvin Gordon. And I know Steve agrees with me because he brought it up earlier too, and I even picked the Chargers to go to the Super Bowl at the start of the year. So what's your take on the Chargers-Browns, Anthony?
Now, I think you're right about the Los Angeles Chargers. They have the quarterback. They have all the pieces, and they're starting to click, and they don't even have Joey Bosa back, who's going to make that defense. You could make a case for top 10 once Bosa's back because
I think
Bosa is going to draw a double
1.
team. They have Melvin Ingram, who's going to get heated up once Bosa comes back on the other side. I love everything about the Chargers. And the most underrated part of that team is Austin Eckler, their backup running back, who's producing despite Melvin Gordon. They have a 2-headed rushing attack.
Yeah, and then you got Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. They got receivers. And
they could get Hunter Henry back. That's not out of the question.
Yeah, and I think they could be the best defense in the NFL. And I'll tell you this. The only teams they've lost to are the Rams and the Chiefs. You put Bosa in there, the thing that makes the Chargers so dangerous is if we think the Patriots are the best team, the way to beat the Patriots is to be able to get pressure with your front 4 or your front 3 against Tom Brady without having to blitz and to be able to run the ball to keep him off the field. They're a team that can do both of those things, and then on top of that, you've got Phillip Rivers. And Phillip Rivers, can play. On a given day, Phillip Rivers can play just as well as Tom Brady can.
Yeah, Phillip Rivers, he doesn't get enough credit in terms of when people bring up the great quarterbacks, they bring up the Ben Roethlisbergers and Tom Brady's and Aaron Rodgers. Phillip Rivers is very much in that mix.
Yeah, but he doesn't get it because his team has usually not been that good. Go ahead, Steve.
No, I agree. I agree with Phillip Rivers. I think they're not overtaxing him right now. He only threw the ball 20 times. Which when you've got 3 running backs combined, like you said with Gordon, Eckler, and Albert, that can all run for 200 yards combined, that's a ground game that's got to be dealt with. And like you said, that keeps other quarterbacks off the field. And I think that the Chargers are flying under the radar screen right now with everybody because the Rams are out there in L.A. and they're kind of dominating all the news. And they're kind of just plodding along. And I didn't even realize the fact the only 2 losses they've had since you brought that up were to the Chiefs and to the Rams. Arguably 2 teams that could end up being in the Super Bowl. Other than that, they're beating everybody else.
In the past, the Chargers would have lost to the Browns. In the past, the Chargers would have lost to the Browns this week.
Yeah, they're not losing games. I agree with you. And they're winning games that we always are accustomed. While we've always discounted the Chargers, they're winning these games that we're always used to seeing them lose. Like, oh my God, I took the Chargers and they dumped that game. Think of all the time when you did in your fantasy pools or whatever pool you're playing in. But now they're winning these games all of a sudden. And I love the maturity of Rivers finally. The battle.
I just think it's more talent around him overall.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're a sleeper team, and they're going to surprise some people. I can easily see it being the Chargers and the Patriots playing for the Super Bowl from the AFC.
Now, I've got another sleeper team, and then a team that I think is overrated that played yesterday. We got the Carolina Panthers, lost 23-17 to the Redskins. And, Anthony, I'll let you address this since you're a Cowboys fan, but I think the Redskins can win this division. Alex Smith is a decent quarterback, but Adrian Peterson looks like he can still play. You got Jordan Reed, Vernon Davis at the tight ends, Josh Doxson. There's some talent here. And not that I think the Redskins are that good, but right now the NFC East is just not that great.
No, the East isn't doing well at all, and I think what's carrying the Redskins is their defense. And I know they had that letdown blowout on Monday Night Football against the Saints, and that's going to skew everybody's opinion. Oh, they got blown out the Saints. Their defense is terrible. No, it's not. They just got blown out by the Saints, and the Saints are a complete team, one of the better offenses in the NFL. This Redskins defense, they could really hold their own, and if they can stay healthy, I think that's what's going to catapult them to a division title. I just don't see it. Either the Eagles or even the Cowboys. I know nobody's buying into the Cowboys, but eventually they're going to heat up. And, I mean, they took down the Jaguars. Nobody gave them a shot. Cole Beasley is emerging as a number one wide receiver. You have Ezekiel Elliott, who is steady every week. It's only a matter of time before the Cowboys, they could emerge. Their defense is so underrated. Talk about the Redskins. Dallas's defense, they're playing outstanding football right now.
Yeah, and I don't know how we got on a Cowboys rant, but you are a Cowboys fan. All right, and the Panthers – I'm just kidding, Anthony. And then the Panthers, on the other hand, are a team that I think are big-time overrated. Their offensive line is so bad, Anthony, that I don't see how an offensive line that bad can really do anything. I know they did this the year they lost to Denver in the Super Bowl where, they had a bad offensive line, but they played a really weak schedule that year and got home field advantage. I just don't see it. You look at this, their leading rusher outside of their quarterback was Christian McCaffrey, 8 carries for 20 yards. You can't win games in the NFL like that.
No, the Carolina Panthers, they're overly predictable. There is, outside of Cam Newton, Christian McCaffrey, and wide receiver DJ Moore, nobody else got a carry. So everybody knows when Christian McCaffrey's off the field, that extra running back, C.J. Anderson, he's probably not going to be involved. Christian McCaffrey isn't getting enough touches. I mean, yeah, he's a receiving dominant running back, but he needs to rush the ball as well. And then DJ Moore, he had 2 first-half fumbles. He shouldn't even be carrying in the game right now.
Yeah, he had more fumbles.
He really cost him that game.
All right, then Bears-Dolphins. Steve, I know this is one that surprised everybody.
That was another game that was just really fun to watch. I think we all were overhyping the Bears a little bit and their vaunted defense. And, they come in with Brock Osweiler, who, Brock Osweiler seems to be one of those quarterbacks where he's either all world, he's worth $120 million, whatever he's being paid, or he's just a total bum. And he played great. He had a great game. Bears, Trubisky again struggled. And the defense wasn't – the one fear was the defense, giving up 31 points against a team with a backup quarterback doesn't say a lot about your defense right there. So this was kind of a shocker to me. I expected Chicago to win this game because I really thought Chicago had with the demise kind of the Packers and then Minnesota not looking too good, I thought Chicago could really hunt and contend for that NFC Central championship. Now, I don't know. They didn't look too good.
Well, Steve, how are you going to blame Mitchell Trubisky? I mean, he was 22 for 31, 316 yards, 3 touchdowns. They scored 28 points. And when I look at this, if you can score 28 points in the NFL, you should win the game.
I just didn't feel like there was good leadership there. I don't know. I just didn't feel like it was one of his better performances in watching that game. Because I'm only seeing it on Red Zone too. Just getting those games out on the West Coast. But
all right,
what I'm seeing,
So
go ahead.
We do call this show Panic Monday or Panic Tuesday today, since we're doing it on Tuesday, Anthony. And I think everybody's panicking a little bit too much for the Bears right now.
Yeah, I think the Bears can rebound, but they're going to have a tough game in Week 7 against the Patriots. I don't think it's going to be a favorable game for them, but I think where the Bears let this one go is that they didn't commit to the run at the end of the game. It wasn't like Jordan Howard wasn't playing well. 14 carries, 69 yards. He averaged 4.9 yards per carry. Why don't they commit to the run enough? Is it because Matt Nagy's an Andy Reid disciple? But I think Jordan Howard, if the Bears want to win and want to win this division, you need to get Jordan Howard 20-plus carries a game, especially when it gets cold.
Yeah, and then we move on to another game that may have been a slight surprise. I think it was a toss-up going in. The Baltimore Ravens shut out the Tennessee Titans 21-0. Marcus Mariota threw for 117 yards, 10 for 15. I don't know why they only threw 15 times, down 21 points. Actually, when you look at the stats here, it seems like the Ravens just played offense the whole game. There's like 50. I don't even know if they had 200 yards of total offense here. And I think, Anthony, people really undersell the Ravens because I think defensively they're really good. But the other thing I think people undersell, I still think Joe Flacco is a good quarterback.
Listen, I'm one of the biggest Joe Flacco fans out there. Everybody was leaving him for dead when they drafted Lamar Jackson, even though the reports out of Baltimore was Joe Flacco was having the best summer of his career, the best camp of his career, and it's showing Joe Flacco was healthy. He had a back injury last year. He had no weapons. They go out and get him 3 veteran wide receivers that he can trust. They load the tight end position, another position that Joe Flacco likes to feature in the passing game. Then they can run the ball with Alex Collins, and Buck Allen serves as a solid goal line and pass-catching option. I love the Ravens' offense. Their defense just needs to play the way they played last week against the Titans. 11 sacks. That was remarkable.
Yeah, and when we look at the Titans, that was a surprise team.
And they dominated the Steelers a few weeks ago. People forget that. They dominated the Steelers.
Yeah, because
that wasn't a close game.
Almost always beats the Steelers, it seems like. As the Steelers always beat the Bengals, it seems like the Ravens usually have the Steelers number. When we look at it, Steve, I still think Mike Vrabel's done a great job with this Titans team. It just seems to me like Marcus Mariota, and I know we've talked about this before, has just never really progressed over the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, you had a good analogy as to why. You might want to address that, but he just seems like he's in a funk. He doesn't know which direction to go or what part of his talent, because he's a multifaceted quarterback. He runs the ball well, he throws well, but I just don't know. And go ahead and your theory on it about coaching changes and having to go through different coaches and different philosophies. Has that affected him as much as you think? And I think the Ravens are getting better every game, and I think come nut crunching time, they're going to be in the hunt to, not be a wild card team, and possibly right up on top of that division.
Nut crunching time doesn't sound like much fun.
No, it's really not.
So you've had it done to you before. All right, I forgot you were married. Of course you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this. I still think Mike Mularkey and the previous Titans staff is why we haven't really seen Marcus Mariota advance any. When you look at him, I just don't think he has had the coaching to advance. I think he came in and he was a certain part of ready, but I don't think that he was completely ready to do this. When you look at him, his quarterback's coach now is Pat O'Hara, who coached 10 years in the Arena Football League. He was also an offensive coordinator for the AFL's Tampa Bay Storm. How's he got this job? I mean, he's the quarterback's coach. He was with the Houston Texans as an assistant offensive coach. But when I look at this, his career is mainly dominated by arena football, which there's nothing wrong with that because I'm a great coach and I coached arena football. But I just think it's coaching. I mean, the kid can definitely play. I mean, he showed that his first year or two. He even showed that last year at times. But I just think, Anthony, that there's something wrong here. I don't think he's getting the coaching that he needs.
Now, coaching aside, how much help if you really look at it, has Marcus Mariota at wide receiver. Aside from Delaney Walker, who's been his most consistent pass-catching target, he's out. He's done for the year. Corey Davis, first-round pick, is flashing, but he's not playing like that first-round pedigree. There's no more Rashard Matthews, but he was the best they had, Rashard Matthews. They brought in Eric Decker, who was over the hill last year. Marcus Mariota needs help.
Yeah, but see, what I see here is, and the stat line looks almost the same for him whether they win or lose, 10 for 15, 117 yards. That's normally what he is. I mean, the only difference is here he didn't run the ball near as much as normal. But I think that he's been in a situation similar to Mark Sanchez with the Jets, only the Jets had a defense around him, where he is not really given the opportunity to win the game for the team. He's just asked not to lose it. And I think that when you play under those restraints for 2 or 3 years, you generally just lose confidence as a quarterback, Anthony.
Yeah, so it's almost like they're trying to make a playmaking quarterback into a game manager and making him play a game that he's not used to. I get it.
Yeah, and Mark Sanchez was ruined by the Jets. I mean, Mark Sanchez, if they would have just let him play, they may not have ever needed Sam Darnold. Now, I don't know if Sanchez would have been that good, but I know that he was good enough to get him to 2 AFC championship games. But the fact that they would not let him try to win the game for him at any point is why they didn't win either one of those championship games. And I just think, confidence-wise, the way you call the game as a coach tells your quarterback whether you believe in him or not. And I think the way they call the game tells them that he doesn't.
You know, we're going to see who the Titans are in the next 3 weeks. You got in Los Angeles against the Chargers, in Dallas, and then at home against New England. We're going to see a true test.
Yeah, we're going to see them be 3-6. Well, the way the NFL is, they'll probably accidentally win one of those games, so we'll see them at 4-5. Let's see. Then we got the Buffalo Bills, who somehow almost became 3-3 against the Houston Texans, but Nathan Peterman came in to save the day for the Texans, as he was probably MVP for him, throwing 2 picks late in the game. Well, I think they even had to lead towards the end of the game. So when you look at it, Deshaun Watson did not play great. Lamar Miller, they didn't run the ball well. But the one thing I'll say is, if you're going to be a team that makes the playoffs like the Texans and win that division, they're going to win a lot of ugly games because talent-wise, they're not going to blow a lot of people out. So I think this is a solid win for the Texans. I just don't know why the Bills would be in the game against anybody because I still think talent-wise they're the worst team in the NFL, Anthony.
Yeah, the Bills, they're not going anywhere now without Josh Allen for who knows how long. I know he's not starting this week, and you're forced to start Nathan Peterman, who shouldn't even be in the league right now. The Bills are going in the wrong direction, and that sucks for a defense that really is playing well for Sean McDermott. On the other side, I think the Houston Texans put together the ugliest 3-game losing streak in the history of pro football. I mean, 3-game winning streak in history of pro football. I mean, they're winning games, but they're winning games ugly. And I think that's a testament to the type of quarterback Deshaun Watson is. He got injured, pretty banged up against the Cowboys, dealing with a chest injury, and he came right back against the Bills defense that beat him up a little bit and still managed to come out with a win.
All right, then we got the New York Jets beat Steve Risley's Indianapolis Colts 42-34 on Sunday. Jets jumped out to a big lead. The Colts came back, of course. But the thing that stuck out to me was the quarterback play in this game. Sam Darnold, 24 for 30, 280 yards, two touchdowns, 1 interceptions. The other thing about the Jets, though, they had Bilal Powell, 59 yards. Isaiah Crowell runs for 40 yards. So they run for 100 yards. They throw for almost 300 yards. And this was a good team performance, Anthony.
Yeah, the Jets are playing really good football. I am surprised. I like to defend the Colts. I like to believe in Andrew Luck. I just think that all the injuries are really setting them back. Andrew Luck shouldn't be dropping back as much as he is. You're not going to win games that way, and it's going to force him to throw interceptions like he is. But on the Jets side, I mean, Sam Darnold is proving week in and week out he's the future of the team, and he's also proving why the Giants should have drafted him over Saquon Barkley.
It's according who the Giants draft this year. Because if the Giants can come up with a quarterback over the next year or two, Saquon Barkley. I just have a hard time thinking Saquon Barkley is a bad draft choice.
I don't know. I won't say bad.
Put
He's
it like
an
this:
all-world
if
talent.
you'd have brought if you'd have brought Darnold into the Giants this year, and there's no Barkley, he would have had no running back play, which he's got this year. He's got running backs that can run. With the Jets, he's got an offensive line that can block. The Giants are in a situation where they need to pick up at least 2 or 3 linemen that can play to fix that. And if you would have put a rookie quarterback behind that, it may not even have worked out. So I think the way they did this, especially if they're planning on drafting a quarterback or signing a quarterback in this offseason, is the way to do it, because I think they picked up 2 offensive linemen, Nate Solder. They drafted Will Hernandez. They got a little bit better there. You still got 3 linemen to replace. You brought the running back in. Now, if you can sign a veteran free agent in the offseason and draft 1 or 2 linemen in the 2nd or 3rd round and pick up your quarterback, I think that's the quicker way to build a team than it would have been to grab a Sam Darnold and then feed him to the wolves, basically.
I mean, but by the time the Giants, the way that you're saying, okay, bring in a bridge veteran quarterback and groom it for a rookie, now you're 2 years down the road. Saquon Barkley's third year in the league.
You've got your bridge NFL veteran right now. What I'm saying is next year, 1st round pick, you draft your quarterback. You know, rounds 2 through 7, you pick up 3 or 4 offensive linemen, hope at least one of them can play, and you sign a veteran offensive lineman in the offseason. I think if you throw Josh Darnold behind this Giants offensive line, he may just be curled up in a fetal position right now, because they're as bad as any offensive line I've ever seen in the NFL.
You know, this year's draft class, quarterback-wise, is getting compared to the 1983 class. There's no guarantees that whoever the top guy, whether it's Herbert or not, is going to pan out. I mean, you could have a Jameis Winston or a Marcus Mariota in this year's class in 2019.
Yeah, but the thing is this.
There's no guarantees you have an Andrew Luck, a Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, whoever you want to throw in there.
But there's no guarantee. See, this is the thing. I think quarterbacks are successful in the 1st round. They're all really talented. I think the reason guys are successes and the reason guys aren't, a lot of times, is the situation they go to. With the Jets, you had a decent offensive line. You have a run game. So Darnold's not out there on an island by himself. If you throw him with the Giants, you're getting his head smacked in all the time. And I think we've seen with Eli Manning, even a veteran that's won 2 Super Bowls, after a while, that wears on you. The perfect example is David Klingler with the Bengals. The Bengals signed David Klingler, drafted him in the 1st round. They waited till halfway through his rookie season to throw him in. And they throw him in against the Pittsburgh Steelers with Greg Lloyd and Kevin Green. And he gets his brain beat in. He gets sacked 11 times in his first ever game. And after a while, the internal time clock on a quarterback speeds up. And we've seen it with Eli Manning. So I think with Josh Darnold, you know, sticking him in the New York Giants may not have worked out as well for him as sticking him with the New York Jets. You know, Aaron Rodgers maybe is not as good at the Cleveland Browns pick him. You know, Tom Brady gets picked by the Cleveland Browns. We probably never heard of either one of these guys, and we think Rodgers was a bust. Because sometimes you're just in a situation where you're not going to win. I mean, I just think a lot of it's the coach you go to. And I don't think the Giants coach is very good. I think that Marcus Mariota has been blown up because you've given him coaches that were, you know, offensive line coaches or defensive-minded coaches, which doesn't help. And I think Todd Bowles is a great football coach. I mean, flat out. I think Todd Bowles has done with the Jets things nobody else could have done. And I think he's really underrated. And if they go 6-10 this year and fire him, they'll really rue the day that they did that. So I think in the end, it's hard to say that you made a bad pick by picking Saquon Barkley. But I don't know. I think the Giants are just a mess. And I think it's going to take more than 1 or 2 years to fix the Giants.
I mean, and it's getting worse because today the owner blasts Odell Beckham into the media.
It's about time they did, because Odell Beckham is the biggest problem on that team.
They should have traded him.
He's a bitch. I mean, he flat out is a bitch.
They could have traded or tried to trade Odell Beckham before the draft, got a 1st-round draft pick, and got your quarterback and running back.
Yeah, but they didn't want to do that.
It's a dream
because
scenario,
they don't want
but
to
they
piss
didn't
the fans off.
The fans are pissed anyway. I'm in New Jersey. They're pissed. They love Odell Beckham. They hate him. They love Eli Manning. They hate him.
But there's no reason to love him. There's a reason to love Eli Manning. Eli Manning has done everything he could for that organization. That organization and, Mr. Reese have let him down big time since the second Super Bowl they've won. Their drafts have been just disastrous. I mean, really, you could have switched the Cleveland Browns and the New York Giants over the last 4 years and nobody would have known a difference.
Now, I put a tweet out and people didn't like it. I said, wake up, New York. The Giants are the new Browns.
Yeah, and they're going to be.
Twitter didn't like it.
Out. But Twitter is stupid anyways. All right, Steve, let's go to Andrew Luck. I think Andrew Luck played well. I think Andrew Luck is a great quarterback, but he's got nobody to throw to.
Yeah, he's in just a no-win situation, basically. I mean, any win the Colts get this year are going to fall on his arm. Although Marlon Mack ran for 89 yards, you're establishing somewhat of a running game, which you've got to. But I mean, I don't know what. Every time I hear the Colts play-by-play, they must have some kind of record in the NFL for most different offensive line starting combinations in a row. They never start the same guys on their offensive line. Costanzo hasn't played yet this year. Ryan Kelly, their number one center from Alabama 2 years ago, in and out. I mean, there's just no continuity offensively on that team. T.Y. Hilton hadn't played. Manning, Andrews he's out there on his own offensively. Defensively, the Colts are not strong. They're down there. They're down there with the 49ers right now. They're playing for draft picks. But Luck has rebounded well. I think he throws the ball with great zip. His accuracy's good. He's doing all he can to get the ball to the people. We're dropping some passes. His big tight end has been out the last couple games. So, yeah, he's out on his own. They're like the Giants. They're 2 or 3 or 4 years away before
I don't think they are. The reason they're not like the Giants is this. They may have some of the same problems, but Andrew Luck's not old. Andrew Luck doesn't look gun shy, so you don't have to get a franchise quarterback. So when you look at them, I think they beat the Bills. I think they beat the Raiders. They could beat the Jaguars at home. They could beat the Titans at home. They could beat the Dolphins at home. They could win their next 5 games. They won't. But I think when you look at it, I think hoping for a number 1 draft pick's a little nuts with the schedule they play. I think they can go 3-2 over their next 5 games. And then they still get to play the Giants. They get to play the Titans again. The division they're in makes them at least a 6-win team, I think, Anthony.
Yeah, I don't think the Colts are that bad off. I think once T.Y. Hilton and Jack Doyle get back, they've been plagued by injuries almost as bad as the 49ers. They really need to find a running game, too. I think Nyheim Hines, if you're going to keep any running back in the game, I know he's not much between the tackles, but he does have a trust with Andrew Luck, even though he dropped a short thing touchdown pass last week. I think he's going to give the most spark out of the running back field. I don't believe in Marlon Mack whatsoever. I don't believe he can stay healthy despite the good game. They do need to run the ball with somebody. Why not go get Le'Veon Bell?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask that question. Is Bell a good fit for the Colts, or is he too much of a problem child for?
Hey, playing-wise, he's a great fit for everybody. But what you just asked is this question everybody has to ask themselves. Is he more trouble than what he's worth?
Yeah,
I mean, he'd be the focal point of the offense. So it's not like he's going to bitch about not getting touches, and they like to throw the ball to the running back. I think it's a perfect fit.
Yeah, but the other problem is this. You've still got a team that has a lot of holes. And to get Le'Veon Bell, you're going to have to give him a huge contract, and it may make it hard to fill the other positions you need to fill if you pay too much money for a running back.
But would you say most of their holes are on defense? Because they drafted 2 guards, or a tackle and a guard in the draft high. Quentin Nelson, who, in my opinion, might be the best player in the draft. And who is it, Braden Smith?
Yeah, but I still think you got 3 other positions that are not that good. I would have got Costanza, but he's hurt all the time. You still need a couple offensive linemen. You still need a wide receiver, even when TJ – I mean, you need more than one. And the thing is, I still think the Colts' biggest problem outside of Peyton Manning being overrated back in the day was the fact that they spent the majority of their money on 3 offensive players. And defensively, the Colts are pretty bad. It's going to take more than a couple players to improve that defense, I think.
I mean, we see it with some teams now with offenses like the Chiefs, kind of covering up a bad defense. And I think a player like Bell, if you put a Jack Doyle, T.Y. Hilton, and Le'Veon Bell, they can lift the players around him. But they're going to draw extra coverage, and then they can put up the points to, cover up their defense. Okay. I just think Bell would be the great fit here.
Well, my question is this, though. When you look at it, the Pittsburgh Steelers have done that for years, but they can't get past the New England Patriots like that.
Nobody has.
The Atlanta Falcons have done that for years. Couldn't get past them. So the point is this, though. If you are a team in the NFL, especially in the AFC, you have to be built to beat the Patriots. And if you are going to try to outscore the Patriots, you're not going to beat them. Because even if their defense is bad, usually that defense will make a play like they did against Mahomes a couple times the other night. So I think in the end, yeah, you can be a perennial playoff team doing that. But if your goal is to win a world championship, to win a Super Bowl, you got to have some defense, because we haven't seen too many teams. I mean, look at the greatest show on turf, the Rams. The year they won it, their defense was ranked in the top 5. The next year, their defense was ranked in the bottom 12, and they lost to the Patriots. So I think if you want to win a Super Bowl, though, you have to have a defense that's at least in the top half of the league.
But didn't the Colts win a Super Bowl with one of the worst defenses in the league? I think all they had was Bob Sanders.
Yeah, but remember this. Bob Sanders did not play that year until a couple weeks before the playoffs. And when they played in the playoffs, they played teams that offensively were not very good. They started off, they played the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs couldn't get out of their own way. The Ravens were not good offensively. And then they played a Patriots team. That was probably the worst Patriots team to get to a championship game. And then they go to the Super Bowl, and they play a team with no offense at all, a team that's quarterbacked by Rex Grossman. When you look at them in their other Super Bowl appearance against the Saints defense was ranked in the top half of the league. Their running game was top half of the league. They had Drew Brees, and in the end, the difference was the Saints defense made a play, the Colts defense didn't. And I still think this, you may be able to go through and pick out 1 or 2 teams over the 53 years of the Super Bowl that played like that. But, I mean, that's an anomaly. I mean, overall, I think you have to be able to stop somebody at some point. I don't think the Chiefs are a threat to beat the Rams, because if the Chiefs play the Rams defense will win them that game. It may be 48-41, but that Rams defense is going to make a play. I don't see the Chiefs defense making that play.
The Rams defense is full of playmakers and high-priced talent.
Yeah, so the goal is to win a Super Bowl, not to get to the playoffs. At least that's what it should be. And if that's the goal, you have to build a defense to be able to win. And the Rams did this like within 2 years. But of course, I think it was built longer than that. It's just Jeff Fisher is the worst coach that ever lived. Okay. I guess nobody disagrees with the Jeff Fisher statement then.
Oh, absolutely not.
No,
did you hear him do any of that Jets game a couple weeks ago? I mean,
did I what?
He did the Jets game. He was the analyst on the Jets game a couple weeks ago, and I forget who they're playing. They're playing the Jaguars, and the Jets settled for an early field goal to go up 3-0. And Fisher goes, "I completely agree with that call because this game's going to be a game of field goals." He was just as good in the booth as he was on the sideline.
Well, that's Jeff Fisher. I mean, I can't believe he was in coaching for as long as he was. He gets compared a lot, whether it's fair or unfair, to Marvin Lewis, though.
Well, it is unfair to Marvin Lewis because the thing about Marvin Lewis's teams, even though I can't stand him, is the Bengals, other than an occasional year here or there, are usually a team that contends. Where the Rams, he would make with the Rams or the Titans, he'd have like a couple really good years, and then they'd go off the charts 6-10 for 4 years. He'd get them back to 8-8 to keep his job, and I think to compare the two of them and what they've done in their careers would be asinine, because people forget, no matter what you think of Marvin Lewis, he was a damn good defensive coordinator, and he coached one of the greatest defenses in NFL history. Jeff Fisher, to me, is another one of those guys that if you look at Jeff Fisher, I mean, to show you what he is when he was with the Rams his last couple of years, he hired his son Brandon as a special teams coach who was like 25 years old and never coached before. And, of course, since then, Brandon's gotten other jobs in the NFL because of who his dad is. And that's why most NFL teams are poorly coached and why 9 coaches get fired every year. I mean, does anybody think Steve Wilkes at the Cardinals is going to do anything?
No, absolutely not.
I mean, Steve Wilkes, to me, looks like a guy that may possibly take over. Who's that? Steve Harvey that does the Family Feud now?
Yeah.
I can see still Steve Wilkes moving in and maybe being the host of Family Feud. What do you think, Steve? You watch those kind of shows.
No comment.
All right, guys. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up because we've been on for almost an hour and a half, and I just realized that. And I'm taking my dogs to the dog park, so I got to go, Steve. I got a new dog, Steve, and he didn't attack anybody.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
There you go.
But, all right. I'm going to go ahead and wrap the show up. Anthony, any final words?
No, I am enjoying the parity of some of the divisions in the NFL right now. I know teams like the Rams are running away with it, but a lot of divisions are wide open. So it's going to be an interesting season down the stretch.
I think the New Orleans Saints could upend the Rams at the end of the year. I think they're pretty decent defensively. They can run the ball, and they've got Drew Brees.
But can they get it done in the playoffs? That's going to be the biggest factor. I'm not sold on the Vikings.
I'm not sold on the Vikings either.
But Rams Saints in the NFC Championship game, that looks likely right now.
And Rams Saints, I'd have a hard time picking a Jared Goff-led team over a Drew Brees team. And I think Sean Payton, I would take over McVay. But the big wild card there is Wade Phillips.
Oh, I love Wade Phillips. He's one of the most underrated coaches in football. Even as a head coach, he won some games too with the Cowboys and Bills.
To the AFC Championship game,
right?
But
Wade Phillips was the best thing the Rams did for Sean McVay.
Yeah, and I think that Wade Phillips is one of the 3 best, at least top 5 defensive coordinators in NFL history.
Yeah, I don't think it's close either.
Yeah, he's in the top 5 for me. I think guys like Bud Carson. The thing that's impressive is, I think Bum Phillips is in that top 5 also. I mean, people forget what a great defensive coach Bum Phillips was until he became a head coach. Plus, he had that cool hat. Steve Risley looked good in one of those hats. Steve, you got any final words?
Nah, just a shout out to Jim Taylor. Hall of Fame running back, Green Bay Packers, passed away this weekend. Probably considered the last great fullback in the NFL, pure fullback. And
he was the greatest
getting old
running
sucks,
back.
doesn't it?
To me, he was the greatest running back in Packer history, Anthony.
Jim Taylor?
Yeah.
I only know as much as NFL Films teaches me, but I know watching those old Packers teams play, Jim Taylor was certainly a big part of it.
Yeah, and he was a fullback, but he was also...
He shared a backfield with Horning, right?
Yeah, he was better than Horning, though. It wasn't even close. I think Horning is one of the guys that shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame that's in. And I'll let that be my final comment, just to piss Packer fans off. But, all right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. We will be back, me and Steve, tomorrow. We'll look a little bit into the Bill Self, Kansas University basketball team, and the FBI corruption.
Now the Mike Krzyzewski add-ins too. Now,
oh, we got Mike Krzyzewski too. All
right. Oh yeah, calling this all just a little blip, just a little anomaly.
I thought maybe some text came out from Mike Krzyzewski, and me and Steve compared this yesterday when we talked to the movie Blue Chips, and Nick Nolte is now Mike Krzyzewski. So he's the guy that used to be clean but wanted to keep winning, so he did what he had to do. That'll be our topic tomorrow. You can follow us on Twitter at Grueling Truth. You can also go to Facebook and find the Twitter page. Make sure you check the FF Face-Off out on YouTube. Also on the gruelingtruth.net with Anthony Cervino. I think it's also Mike Hoff and Dan Siegel, correct?
Yes.
So make sure you check that out. And then the three of us will be back next Monday for another Panic Monday in the NFL. You can hear all of our shows on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Anthony Cervino, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.